Let me tell you, the most common thing I hear about asana. It's good for flexibility. Sometimes it helps with stress. And occasionally I do yoga for stretching. But for my real workout, I go to the gym. I don't argue with this. I just smile. What that person doesn't know, what most people don't know, is that asana is not being underestimated because it looks easy. It's being underestimated because nobody has explained what it is actually doing. Not to the muscles, not to the joints, to the breath. Every single posture in asana is designed around one thing, the breath. The inhale that opens you, the exhale that takes you deeper, the rhythm that tells your nervous system whether you are safe or under threat. The CO2 balance that determines how much oxygen actually reaches your cells. The vagus nerve activation that no squat rack, no treadmill, no HIIT timer has ever touched. Other exercise systems train the body and let the breath follow. Asana trains the breath and lets everything else follow from that. Strength, mobility, cardiovascular capacity, mental resilience, hormonal balance, fat metabolism. All of it downstream of one thing, the breath. Today, we decode exactly how, with science, with physiology, and with the kind of precision that will make you look at every asana you have ever done in a completely different way. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Breath Math. I'm Nisha. Before we get into this, I want to be clear about one thing. This episode is not an argument against other forms of exercise. Running is great, weight training is great, swimming, cycling, dancing, all great. Movement is medicine. But we live in a world that measures exercise by intensity alone. How hard did you go? How much did you sweat? How sore are you tomorrow? That framework is missing something important. What is this doing to my nervous system? What is this doing to my breath? Is this building me up or just breaking me down and hoping I recover? Today, we compare asana to conventional exercise across five dimensions: strength, mobility, breath, the nervous system, and mental health. Science, not wellness cliches. Let's start. Are asanas actually strength training? Let me start with the most common objection. Asana doesn't build real strength. You need to lift weights for that. Strength, at its most basic, is your muscles' ability to generate force against resistance. The assumption is that resistance has to come from external weights like dumbbells, barbells, or machines. Resistance is resistance. Your body is heavy. Think about chaturanga, the low plank in a sun salutation. You're holding your entire body weight with your arms, shoulders, and core with control, not dropping into it, controlling it down. That is strength. Think about Warrior 3, standing on one leg, body parallel to the ground. Every stabilizer in your hip, glute, lower back, ankle, all firing just to keep you upright. That is strength. Think about an arm balance, crow pose, side plank, eight angle pose. This requires not just muscular force but neuromuscular coordination, the ability of your brain and muscles to communicate precisely and rapidly. This is strength of a very high order. Now you might be thinking, what about calisthenics? What about gymnastics? They also use body weight. Ring gymnastics has isometric holds at elite intensity. Handstands require neuromuscular coordination of the highest order. How is asana any different from those? It's a fair question. And the answer is look at what leads. In calisthenics, the goal is the skill, the muscle up, the planche, the handstand. Breath is managed around the movement. You breathe to fuel the performance. In asana, breath is not managed around the movement. Breath is the movement. Every transition is breath initiated. Every hold is breath sustained. The posture exists to create a specific condition for the breath, not the other way around. This is not a philosophy. That is a structural design difference, and it changes everything downstream. The nervous system response, the CO2 balance, the vagus nerve signal, the hormonal outcome. A gymnast and a yogi can look identical from the outside, holding the same shape. Physiologically, they are in entirely different states. Is bodyweight training the same as heavy barbell lifting? No. If your goal is powerlifting or significant muscle mass, you need progressive overload with external weights. That's true. For the vast majority of people, for functional strength, joint stability, the kind of strength that makes everyday life better, research shows bodyweight training is not just sufficient but can be superior for certain outcomes. A study in the Journal of Human Kinetics compared bodyweight training and weight training across multiple fitness markers. Bodyweight training showed comparable gains in muscular endurance and outperformed weighted training in flexibility and coordination. What makes asana different from regular bodyweight training? Every posture is held, not 10 fast reps and moving on. You sustain the position, hold it, breathe through it. That sustained isometric contraction, holding a pose for 5 breaths, 8 breaths, 10 breaths, recruits slow twitch muscle fibers, your endurance fibers, the ones responsible for postural strength and long term joint health. Most gym workouts don't train this at all. Mobility, the spine, and organ health. Walk into any gym and you will find dedicated spaces for cardio, strength, machines. Almost nowhere you will find a dedicated space for mobility. And if it exists, it's usually a corner with a foam roller nobody uses. Mobility has a perception problem. It doesn't look hard, doesn't make you sweat, can't be measured in kilos or kilometers. Here's what matters. Mobility is not the same as flexibility. Flexibility is passive. How far your muscle can lengthen when an external force is applied. Someone pushes your leg up. That's flexibility. Mobility is active. How far your joint can move through a range of motion while your muscles are in control. Nobody's helping you. You're moving yourself. Flexibility without mobility is useless for real movement and can increase injury risk because the joint has range the muscles cannot control. Asana trains mobility, not just flexibility. In Warrior 2, pressing your back foot down, opening your hips, extending your arms, you're using muscular effort to achieve and maintain range of motion. That's mobility. In pigeon pose, holding and breathing, your nervous system is being trained to release tension rather than guard against it. The muscle isn't just being stretched, the nervous system is being told this position is safe. You can let go here. That is a very different process from stretching. Then there is a joint lubrication. Movement produces synovial fluid, the fluid that keeps cartilage healthy and reduces friction. Asana moves the body through multiple planes in a single session. Forward falls, back bends, lateral stretches, twists, inversions. Every plane, every direction, every joint. Running moves you in one plane, forward. Most gym exercises stay in a sagittal plane, front to back. But there is something even more important happening in all of this multidirectional movement that almost nobody talks about, the spine. When you fold forward, you lengthen the posterior chain and decompress the vertebrae. When you back bend, you open the anterior body and create extension through the thoracic spine. a region most people never move deliberately in their entire lives. When you twist Marichasan or the Matsyendrasan, even a simple seated spinal twist, you're creating a ringing action through the spinal column that increases blood circulation to the spinal discs and the nerve roots branching out from them. Your spine is not just a structural column holding you upright. It is the main communication highway between your brain and every organ, every limb, every system in your body. Every nerve signal to your lungs, your digestive organs, your heart, your reproductive system travels through or adjacent to the spine. When the spine is stiff, compressed, or moving in only one plane, that communication degrades. The signals get muddier. The body becomes less coordinated, less regulated, and less efficient. Asana systematically moves the spine in every direction it was designed to move forward, backward, sideways, and rotational in a single session, with breath guiding every transition. No other exercise system does that. Inversions, a bridge to breath. Before we get to breath, there is one more thing asana does that deserves its own moment. Inversions. Headstand, shoulder stand, legs up the wall, even a simple forward fold where the head drops below the heart. This postures reverse the relationship between gravity and the circulatory system. In every upright activity, standing, sitting, running, lifting, the heart works against gravity to pump blood to the brain. In an inversion, gravity assists that flow. Fresh, oxygenated blood moves towards the brain, the thyroid, the pituitary gland, the lymphatic system, which has no pump of its own and relies entirely on movement and gravity, drains more efficiently. The internal organs get something they almost never receive from conventional exercise, a shift in gravitational load. The digestive organs, the adrenal glands, the reproductive organs, all repositioned, all receiving increased circulation, all stimulated in ways that running on a treadmill simply cannot achieve. Asana practiced fully has the capacity to stimulate every major organ system in the body, not through the impact, not through the intensity, through intelligent, breath guided, multidirectional movement that respects the body's full anatomical range. The body has not just exercised, it is maintained from the inside out. The breath. Why this is the whole conversation. This is the segment everything has been building toward. This is where asana separates itself from everything else. When you are on a treadmill, what is your breath doing? Probably just happening. Or maybe mouth breathing. Maybe listening to music and not thinking about it at all. When you are lifting weights, what is your breath doing? Most people hold it on the hard rep or breathe in a vague, unstructured way. Exhale on the push, that's the general advice, but it's rarely practiced with real attention. Breath is reactive, it follows the effort. In asana, breath precedes effort. The inhale creates space before the back bend. The exhale initiates the fold. This is not a small difference. It means the nervous system receives the breath signal before the physical demand and enters the posture already in regulation and enters a posture already in regulation. Breath is not the exhaust system in asana, it is the ignition. In asana, the breath is the instruction. Every movement is breath led. Inhale to extend, to open, to rise. Exhale to fold, to deepen, to release. The breath is not the background noise. It is the timing system of the entire practice. In every posture, your nervous system is receiving a signal from the breath about whether this is safe or not. Your autonomic nervous system has two modes: sympathetic, fight or flight, and parasympathetic, rest and digest. Most conventional exercise, especially high intensity, activates the sympathetic nervous system. That's appropriate for exertion. Heart rate rises, blood vessels dilate, adrenaline and cortisol increase. But if every workout is a stress event for someone already living in chronic stress, the gym becomes another physiological burden on top of an already burdened system. Asana practice with conscious breath is different. Slow, diaphragmatic breathing activates the vagus nerve, the main highway of the parasympathetic nervous system, running from the brainstem through the heart, lungs, and digestive organs. Heart rate drops, blood pressure drops, cortisol drops. You're doing a strength practice and a nervous system recovery practice simultaneously. Show me another form of exercise that does the same. There's a reason asana uses nasal breathing specifically, and it's not just tradition. Nitric oxide is produced in the nasal sinuses. It's a vasodilator. It opens blood vessels and airways, making oxygen transport more efficient. Every nasal breath in asana delivers nitric oxide to the lungs. Every mouth breathing session at the gym does not. Slow nasal breathing also maintains optimal CO2 levels in the blood. CO2 is the signal that tells red blood cells to release oxygen to the tissues. The Bohr Effect. Better CO2 balance means better oxygen delivery to every working muscle. In asana, you work in a zone where cellular respiration is optimal. Muscles get what they need metabolized efficiently with maximum benefit and minimum stress. In a HIIT class, you frequently cross into anaerobic territory. The body can't supply oxygen fast enough. Lactic acid builds, and the workout is essentially a controlled form of oxygen deprivation. Not always a bad thing, but a very different physiological environment. Here is the deeper point. Breath is the only system in the body that is simultaneously autonomous and voluntary. Your heart beats without your permission. Digestion, immunity, hormonal regulation. None of this are under your conscious control. Breath, you can choose. Slow it, deepen it, pause it, change it right now just by deciding it to. Conscious breathing is the one direct lever you have over your own physiology. Asana hands you that lever and says, use this. Every posture, every breath. No other exercise system does this. Why the combination matters. Most exercise systems are exceptional at one thing and leave gap elsewhere. Asana fills those gaps. That is why it is the missing variable. Running is excellent for cardiovascular conditioning. It doesn't address mobility, moves in one plane, and the breath is almost never consciously engaged. Weight training is excellent for muscle development and bone density. It doesn't address mobility, and because it activates the sympathetic nervous system significantly, it adds to the total stress burden on someone who is already running on empty. HIIT is excellent for metabolic conditioning and time efficiency. It produces significant cortisol spike and demands high recovery. It is genuinely not appropriate for people with adrenal fatigue, hormonal imbalance, or high baseline stress. Yet it gets recommended to everyone. Swimming is low impact, works multiple muscle groups, and the rhythmic nature engages the breath somewhat. The mobility range is still limited, and breath is regulated by the stroke, not by intention. Now look at the asana. In the same hour, you work on strength by body weight loading, isometric holds, and progressive challenge as postures advance. Mobility in multiple planes, Active range of motion, nervous system trained to release rather than guard. Breath is intentional, nasal, and diaphragmatic, integrated into every movement. Vagus nerve activated while you work. Cardiovascular, yes, in vinyasa and dynamic styles. Mental focus, you cannot hold a balanced pose while your mind is elsewhere. Asana demands presence in a way a machine at the gym does not. This is not a competition, it is a complement. Whatever else you do, asana fills the variable that everything else leaves blank. The breath. The mind body connection, what the science says. Exercise in general is good for mental health. Physical activity increases BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor, which supports neural growth and is associated with lower depression. Endorphins release. Cortisol reduces over time with regular practice. We know all of this. Asana does something additional and it comes back to the breath. When you are holding chair pose, thighs burning, wanting to come out, and instead of collapsing, you breathe and something happens. You teach your nervous system that discomfort is survivable, that the instinct to escape is not a command you have to obey. You build what researchers call interoceptive awareness, the ability to notice what's happening inside your body, feel sensations without immediately reacting to them, and be present with discomfort rather than running from it. This is the same skill trained in mindfulness based therapies for anxiety and depression. Asana builds it physically through posture and breath in a way no other exercise system does. A 2017 study in the Journal of Psychiatric Research found asana based interventions showed significant reduction in anxiety and depression, comparable to stabilized psychological treatments. Not complementary, comparable. A 2019 review in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found breath integrated movement practices showed greater improvements in anxiety symptoms than aerobic exercise alone. The mechanism, the breath, vagus nerve stimulation, parasympathetic activation, cortisol reduction. It's not magic, it's not mysticism, it's the physiological consequences of intentional breathing inside a movement system designed to keep breath and body inseparable. That's the design of asana. Always has been. The science is now confirming exactly why it works. What this means for you. If you already exercise, keep going. Nothing said today is an argument against movement. It's an argument for being more intentional about what your movement does for your whole system. If you're doing high intensity training and feeling exhausted, inflamed, or not recovering well, your sympathetic nervous system may be overloaded. One or two asana sessions a week where the goal is breath led movement rather than intensity can shift your recovery capacity, not as replacement, as a complement. If you haven't been exercising at all and feel intimidated by the gym or running, asana is one of the most accessible entry points available. You start where you are. The breath guides the pace. No competition, no external standard to be measured against. If you already practice asana, I hope today gave you the language for why you feel the difference in your body. Being able to explain it matters to the people in your life who still ask, is asana really exercise? Tell them it's the most complete exercise your body can do. And then tell them about the breath. The reason asana belongs in a category of its own is not because it's harder or easier than other forms of exercise. It's because it refuses to treat the body and the breath as separate things. Every other exercise system says, work the body, the breath will follow. Asana says, lead with the breath and the body will follow. That shift, what comes first, changes the entire physiological experience of the practice. Strength built with breath is strength built with the nervous system in regulation. Mobility developed with breath is mobility the nervous system trusts. Fitness achieved with breath doesn't deplete you, it builds you. Your breath is not something that happens while you exercise, it is the exercise. That's the math, that's the breath. Thank you for being here today. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who asks why you do asana instead of going to the gym. Let the science do the talking. See you in the next one. Breathe well, stay balanced, and live fully.